listening to AM Ocala Live, WOCA, The Source, 96.3 FM, 1370 AM. As we're making our way here, rounding out our show, as is the bottom of the 10 o'clock hour, not 20 minutes before the 11 o'clock hour, as we're rolling with things here, just like we've had now every Thursday. We've got, make sure you get your mic there, we got County Commissioner Kathy Bryant. Welcome, Kathy. How you doing?
Good morning. How are you?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Make sure I got your mic there. All right. As we had you on last week. Last week was a great informational tidbit for the time that we had to talk with the health department. That was great talking with him and everything. And then it was about 24 hours later that you guys made the announcement that we did have the first confirmed case within Marion County.
Yes.
And since then, five have been reported, and it's interesting because I had that pulled up earlier as I was going through and talking a little bit about that from what was gathered. Let's see that with the Ocala Star banner, and what they were gathering with that was that the 5 people that were confirmed with the cases there were now one of them is travel history is under investigation, but all of them are travel related in lieu of Wisconsin, and travel related Ireland, travel related United Kingdom. And here's the key part of this, and I stressed this morning, for the information that we have now that we know of, none of Marion County's cases have required hospitalization so far.
So we wouldn't know that because
that's
HIPAA laws.
Yeah, right.
To my knowledge, at this time, all of our Marion County cases are at home, self-isolating.
Yeah.
And you bring the number of cases up. I think it's very important to have a conversation about that. So, as of the latest numbers we received last night, and I'm waiting for the 11 o'clock numbers to come out this morning.
Yeah.
We've got 5 cases. The Department of Health has tested 305 people. We have had 182 of those tests come back, with 5 being positive, 4 travel related, and 1 is still under investigation. It's also very important for people to understand that Department of Health number is not the complete number for the amount of people that have been tested. That number does not include the private sector labs testing numbers.
Okay.
It will include a positive, whether it is from the Department of Health or the private sector. So that number is absolutely correct for the testing that has been done for Marion County citizens. Gotcha. So there have been a lot more people that have been tested.
Yeah.
And so I think that, we need to have a conversation about that. And while we still have to remain cautious and vigilant, and we still have to continue to follow CDC guidelines of washing your hands with soap and water for 20 seconds, make sure you're using hand sanitizer, wiping down surfaces. One of the most important things is social distancing, not gathering in groups of 10 or more. And actually, to me, the most important, and this actually came out in an executive order from the governor yesterday, and then also, the executive order came out on the 24th, which was Tuesday. Surgeon General also sent out a statement today. If you are 65 or older and you fall within the immune compromised, please stay home.
Yeah.
Self-isolate.
Yeah.
We do need to continue to do these things so that we don't see that community spread. That is what we are on high alert for.
Okay.
Is, when we start seeing community spread. And going back to the numbers. So I'm going to go back. We've had 182 people. Their test results have come back. And we've had 5 positive. It's very important to remember that they're not randomly testing everyone.
Right.
If you are asymptomatic, you are not being tested. The people that are being tested are people that have all the symptoms. They have either travel, they've come into contact with someone who has been sick with COVID-19. They are in that very, very high risk category.
Right.
So think about this. Those are the people that are being tested, and we've had 5 out of 182, which means not only do we have COVID-19 out there, but we also have some very other serious. We also have some very other sicknesses out there right now.
Right.
There's a lot of bugs going around, and we just need to be vigilant.
Right.
And stop the spread of all of it.
Right. That's a good point, because I think, so caught up in the novel coronavirus of COVID-19 and all that stuff. Hey, it's still likely somebody can get another bug of some kind, and there was a lot going around prior to this that I know I can attest that some people I knew and affected my family a little bit, from a stomach bug to some other things. So it's just about, like you said, being diligent and vigilant to basically just continue to do what we're doing. Now, a lot of people, I can sense, even, with some of the listeners that have called in and stuff, everybody seems to kind of be moving everything within the positive, what we can do with the community, what we can do to do our part and be responsible. But I do know that a lot of people are getting a little antsy, and it's it's important to have that conversation too about, I think, when we talk about all this flattening the curve concept, if you will, I think at the end of the day, I think it should be reiterated that we are doing that. We're in the midst of doing that right now. That's important. Hey, thank you, everybody, right now, for having done your part. Please continue to do so. I think a lot of times it comes down to where it feels like, hey, we got to do this, this, and this. Well, we have been doing this. Well, we got to do this, this, and this. And it's like when a parent is telling a kid, like, hey, I need you to do this, this, and this. Well, I already did it. Well, I still need you to do this, this, and this. Just continue to do so. And it starts to feel a little oppressive. But we are doing our part now, and we need to continue to do that. And that's the message we're kind of sending out today, is just continue to practice the good responsibility of respiratory health and all that stuff with, like we said, washing our hands for more than 20 seconds and being aware and social distance and all that stuff. And it's made it easier to do so. Everything's shut down.
Well, and I couldn't agree more. Each and every one of us have an important role to play in this. Mm-hmm. We have responsibility for our behaviors, and our behaviors will determine the outcome for our community.
Yeah.
And
yes.
We've had to take some steps here in the course of the last week and shut some things down that we originally tried to keep open so that people wouldn't go stir crazy. We've had to close our playgrounds. We've had to close our community centers. We had to close down boat ramps. And while most people, like you said, are doing their part and they're doing what we've asked them to do and they're following CDC guidelines, you still have that handful out there that, do not see the importance of this situation. And so, unfortunately, we had to shut those things down, and we just ask the public to understand that these decisions are not taken lightly. We don't make them in haste, but it is our job to, protect the health of our community. And in the coming days, we'll be making, I'm sure that there will be more decisions that we'll have to make.
Right. And in that, I was going to bring up too, I think what a lot of people maybe not be paying attention to is how this is kind of a county by county thing, in lieu of what the governor has done or has put into action more or less, and the conversations with that is, it's still kind of a county by thing. And I was just talking with it was one of our segments, I think it was yesterday, I was talking with Galen from Life South Community Blood Centers. Different counties are taking different actions with this, and where we're at right now is is why we have you on to talk about what we've been doing and to continue to do it. And it is something that is a day-to-day thing, and when that information comes through, and there really isn't too much crazy updated information from what we've been spilling out within the last few days, other than continue to do what we're doing and wash our hands and so on and so forth. What's interesting is how now, I think it came out this morning that I think it was the Orange, maybe Pasco, or the I was trying to find it there, but there's certain counties that are going on a full lockdown.
Correct.
We're not there yet.
No, we're not there yet, thank goodness. And if you'll look at the counties that are doing those things, it's because they have got a higher number of cases. They have areas with the population that resides in a lot more close proximity than we do. Our hot spots right now, they continue to be the South Florida counties of Dade. Dade County has 491 cases.
Yeah.
But you have to compare when you look at that. You need to compare the demographic, the proximity of people within their geographic space.
Right.
And fortunately for Marion County, we don't have that here.
Right.
That is where we're very, very fortunate.
We're spread out. We have a large county, but it is spread out over quite a bit of an area, and that is the difference. We're not packed or butted up against the Everglades, so to speak, and with a more of a congested type of a metropolis, so to speak, which does make things different. And because of that, those are the ideas that are adjusted from day to day about what we need to do within our own county, and our county being different in that light. So and that makes sense. And I think that's kind of what I was getting at there. I think maybe people are maybe thinking, man, is it going to come to a point where Marion County is going to get to a full-on lockdown type mode or anything like that. That's not what we're saying now. But if we continue to do what we're doing here to practice everything we have been with being responsible with nipping the spread in the bud, we might not see that happen, and that's a good thing. And we are continuing, like you said, to flatten that curve, and we're going to see a means to an end here at some point.
That is certainly the hope. That's why we're asking people to take the steps that we're asking them to take now. Our hope is that by doing this now, taking these steps now before we started to see community spread, that we would stop the community spread. Now, that doesn't mean that there won't possibly be a few cases.
Right.
But if we start seeing large amounts of cases come through and hot spots, then we're going to have some really, really tough decisions to make.
Right.
We're monitoring our nursing homes on a daily basis. That's another area that we're highly concerned about because they really are some of our most vulnerable. Most of them meet that age requirement, and they are in these homes because they have an underlying health issue. So the Department of Health is doing a phenomenal job of, calling them, I believe, twice a day now.
Yeah.
If it's not twice, it's once a day, checking in on the monitoring of the patients. They're doing a phenomenal job on trying to get as many people tested as they can. That's another thing that I would like to say to anyone who is listening this morning. There's this perception out there that we're just not doing testing. Well, that's not the case. What has been done is that the healthcare providers, hospitals, FQHCs, the Department of Health have had to prioritize who gets tested because of the limited resources when it comes to testing.
Right.
And that's not just a Marion County issue. That's a nationwide issue.
That's right. Yeah.
And so they have a criteria that they use. And as we get more testing available or more test kits available, that criteria will change. But for right now, we have limited supplies. And they've been working hard. I know our emergency management has made numerous calls. We actually have a plan to set up drive-through testing if we can get the resources that we need to do that. And the resources would be the swab kits.
Yeah.
You can't do any testing if you don't have the swab kits. I do want to thank, we have some private physicians out there who have gathered some of their resources to make sure that they get where they need to be so that the testing can be done. And when I say they're not giving them all away, but if they have extra supplies, they're doing that. This isn't a one facet issue. There are many, many, many
Right.
things that go along with that. We also have to make sure that our healthcare providers have what they need in order to administer the care for their patients.
Right.
PPE, and that's personal protection equipment. We're trying to do everything we can to get our hands on that for our healthcare providers, because not only do we have patients that need to be kept, that need to be taken care of, but we have our healthcare providers that need to be protected as well. So there's a lot of thought that has to go into this. And we are surely at this point also trying to make sure that we have not just the necessary PPE, but also that we have the space should we need it. So we're being trying to be proactive and not reactive.
Right.
We are making sure that should Marion County get into a situation like we've seen in the South Florida counties, which I'm very hopeful that we won't see that, but should we get into any type of situation like that, we will be prepared.
Right.
So I want the listeners out there to understand that all of your community partners, meaning the Department of Health, Marion County, Emergency Management, our hospital systems, our healthcare providers, our physicians, county government, your city government, we're all working together to make sure that Marion County remains Marion County strong. And we just ask everybody to continue to say a prayer over our county.
Absolutely. That's good. And that's, just to touch on that, it's funny at times. I've had you in here. It's this feeling where there's always been a different demeanor that you can feel surrounding the community. Like, let's go back 3 weeks. It was a little bit of almost like an unknowing, or like we want to know more information, and we're concerned, but we want to know information. And then we go to last week, and the demeanor was like, hey, we're a little concerned. Everybody's demeanor was like, hey, what's going on here? And we filled that in. And now we're kind of at the point, and you can kind of feel this with me too, the demeanor is like, all right, we're at the party. Everybody's been telling us about this party, and we're here. And it's that feeling of like, all right, we're sometimes I think this is the hardest part. I think my point is that right now we got the information. We know people are working on it. We know we're doing our part and being responsible. And it's also that moment of like, all right, just let's stay smart, headstrong, and positive, and we're gonna see ourselves come out of this. And I think one of the ideas is to see where we're at a week from now. It's been interesting with the idea of where I've started a show on Monday and where we've gotten to on a Friday, and that's kind of where we're at now on a Thursday from where we started. And now we've seen the government work in the stimulus package, and that'll go through the House tomorrow. And then, where we could be when you're in here next week at this time, in lieu of what we're doing so far, in a good light, in a positive light.
And I want to go ahead and just give you another update. I said earlier we had, out of those tests that had been run, we had 182 that we had results back on. I just got an update. We have 204 tests now that are back.
Oh, wow.
And we still are at 5 positives. We have 146 pending. We're continuing to test. I know they sent a number of tests off yesterday. One other thing, 2 things, if we have a minute left.
Sure do.
I also want to do a little rumor control. The Marion County Board of County Commissioners is holding an emergency meeting this afternoon. It is not to do a stay-at-home order or a shelter-in-place order. That is not what this meeting is about. It is to address the businesses, certain businesses that we have within our community that have small spaces and lots of people gathering, which is what we don't want. And they are not following the guidelines that have been set forth by the CDC. So once again, rumor control. Your Marion County Board of County Commissioners is holding an emergency public hearing this afternoon, but it is not to issue a shelter-in-place order. Second, please make sure that you're getting accurate information.
Right.
We're doing everything we can to push out information. You can go to marioncountyfl.org, or if you are on Facebook, go to the Marion FL Facebook page. We are updating you numerous times through the day, and the numbers you get for Marion County from us, I assure you, will be correct numbers.
Absolutely, and that's why we have you on today, and that wraps it up there. Absolutely, is to make sure you're getting the right information. That's why we have you here, to push that information. That's important, and stick away from those rumors. If fact check it a little bit. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, that rounds us out here to the top of the 11 o'clock hour, as we had ourselves through the Thursday. Yesterday was a good day there, Kathy. I think everybody was kind of feeling the same way. I felt a certain way. We carried through the conversation pretty well. I think now today it's almost like the feeling is like, all right, yeah, I know, we're going through this. But let's, like we said, continue to do our part, continue to be responsible with wit, continue to expect to get the right information, and question it if it seems a little floozy altogether. But with that, we're going to see where we start to push through this, and I think this is that time. And as we're getting the information for the updates of the numbers that are actually coming away with tests coming out, and what we hear as far as being considered what was pending to what was actually now come back and all that stuff. That's what people, I think, are a little interested in hearing and so forth about like where things are at, and they're at where they're at. And with that being said, that's why we look forward to having you in here next week too, because we can see where we're going to be at a week from now. So thank you for the stuff that you guys are doing and working on, and thank you for coming in. We appreciate it.
Absolutely, and just pray that the course we're on.
Yep, you got it. And for me, as here at AM Ocala Live, for everybody, thank you very much, and to Carlos, to Joe, we say until tomorrow, goodbye. See you guys.
Estimates, in fact, right near the high of the estimates that we saw, going from as little as 1 million to as high as 4 million. In the state of California, we saw 1 million claims in just the past week. In the state of Connecticut, 40,000 between Friday and last night. So the numbers from coast to coast in individual states, really drastic.
There are expanded